Welcome to the Old Man of the Three with JJ Redick and Tommy Alter, presented by Cash App and brought to you by 342 Productions. This is episode 93. Josh Hart, and Jalen Brunson. We want to be very clear on that. This is Josh Hart's episode. In all seriousness, Tommy, Jason and I were talking about this earlier today. Josh gets a little spicy in this.
Oh yeah, I think he was excited about getting the call up to the big leagues.
Yeah,
to be the featured guest. He brought the heat today.
He brought the heat. It's probably the best I've seen him in terms of openly talking about things that are going on in his basketball world. We get into a bunch of stuff with him. Jalen comes on. We chat with him about Dirk and the Mavs and the amazing season he's having, and it is the return of the Old Man of the Three draft. Jalen, surprisingly, I'm not going to lie, had a great draft, and there's going to be a big debate about who wins this draft between me and him because Tommy's picks are questionable at best.
That's funny. I think Jalen played us a little bit because he pretended like he didn't know what the draft was, and then he brought the heat.
Tommy, I was thinking about a little comp, a little comparison, similarities, of course, not one for one, but similarities between this year's Bulls team and last year's Suns team. And again, I'll eat my crow here. Tommy, you were right about the Bulls last summer. I made fun of you for you thinking the Bulls won the offseason. I met multiple times in August. I will admit I was wrong. Tommy. You were right.
Thank you for admitting it.
But the similarities are interesting. So prior to CP going to Pheonix, Devin Booker had never played in the playoffs and clearly an elite talent. And there was a lot of noise about whether or not he could be a great player on a great team. Clearly, that was wrong. And I think there's a decent comparison there between Devin and Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine had other than the year with Zach LaVine had yet to be in the playoffs, and clearly the Bulls should be in the playoffs this year. Will be in the playoffs this year. So there's a comparison there between the two of them. Similar points in their career. The Suns bring in CP. The Bulls sign DeMar. The Suns sign a hard-nosed, winning play type mentality guy in Jay Crowder. The Bulls do that with Caruso. If you look at sort of numbers, there's a similarity, of course, not one for one, but a similarity between DeAndre Ayton, who he is as a player, Nick Vucevic as a player. And there wasn't great expectations about the Suns last year. Certainly we knew the Suns would be in playoff contention, and certainly we knew the Bulls would be in playoff contention. But I don't think anybody envisioned the Suns making the finals. I don't think anybody envisioned the Bulls, now 35 games into the season, being in first place in the East.
Can I give you one more comp? Monty and Billy Donovan.
Oh, 100%. And Monty, was with Billy in OKC. No, I think that's another great comp. Like two coaches that have had success and are veteran coaches and know what the heck they're doing. And it's interesting now. We are now almost halfway through the season, and both conferences, that first seed, that top seed, is really up in the air. I mean, even Utah is a game and a half out of first. Right now, Golden State and Phoenix are tied for first in the West. Chicago's first. Brooklyn is a game and a half out. Milwaukee's 2.5 games out, but they're 16-3 with Chris, Drew, and Giannis all playing. Miami, of course, somehow keeps winning. They just had a big stretch where they missed Jimmy a bunch. Jimmy could be out a while. Bam's not back yet. They had like an 8-2 stretch playing big minutes with Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. They just keep finding a way to win. So this top seed to me in both conferences is really interesting. And of course, it's going to play out throughout the playoffs in terms of who has home court advantage.
Do you think that it matters that much?
Yeah, I think it does. I think in the playoffs, home court matters a lot. I really do.
Let me throw out a very specific, I don't know whether this has been, I'm sure it has been, but we haven't talked about it on our show. A very specific question about why it might be different this year is obviously the Nets and Kyrie.
Yeah.
And that they don't necessarily want home court advantage because I don't know that they will strategize to lose. And I'm curious what you thought about how he looked last night. I thought he looked pretty great.
Yeah.
But he's not playing. They're not changing that law in New York anytime soon. So he's not playing in Game 7 in Brooklyn.
The question was posed to me the other day, who's going to have a bigger impact, Klay coming back or Kyrie coming back? And of course, Klay is a great player. He's a top 77 player of all time. and no, he's top 75 to me. Klay, you're top 75 to me. But I really do believe this. In the short term, I think Kyrie coming back will have a bigger impact on the Nets because of the playmaking load that and burden that Durant and Harden have had the whole season, and because of how imbalanced their roster is. They're so top heavy, and then you get down to Patty Mills. Joe Harris is injured still. So they're really top heavy. Golden State has they're Golden State. There's a system. They play around Steph. Draymond's super smart. Klay will have sort of time to get his footing and come back. But the interesting part, as you just brought up, is what happens now if the Nets get a first seed or get the number 1 seed or get the number 2 seed. And those first 2 rounds of the playoffs, they're playing games 1 and 2 at the Barclays Center without Kyrie. That's going to be really interesting. And I agree with you.
Yeah,
I don't think that law is getting changed anytime soon.
It's just totally unprecedented. So it doesn't mean that they can't. When you have Kevin and James and 2 of the guys in your starting 5, you can beat anybody at any point. But It's a thing that they have to know right now. Going into May is a real thing. Do you want to run through some finals odds?
I would love to. I would actually specifically. I want to know what the Bulls odds are right now.
So I got all these from our friends at FanDuel. Bulls right now are plus 2,400, which is still surprisingly low to me. The Clippers are also plus 2,400. The Sixers are also plus 2,400. The Nets are first right now. This is as of January 6th. Nets are first plus 260. Warriors are plus 460. Bucks are plus 700. Suns are plus 800. Lakers plus 1,300. Heat plus 1,400. And then you get into the Clippers, Bulls, Sixers, and the Mavs and Celtics are a little farther down. Does it feel disrespectful to you to have the Bulls here based off what they've accomplished? Does it feel like you are underestimating, the odds makers are underestimating them a little bit?
I do. And what's really interesting to me about those odds is the other 2 teams in that slot with the Bulls, which is the Clippers. And again, that's based on the idea of Kawhi coming back at some point, of course.
Which, by the way, there's no evidence that is going to happen from anything odds makers would know.
And then the uncertainty around Ben Simmons with Philly if they end up making a trade and getting back playable pieces. By the way, we should shout out Joel Embiid, who's been on a monster tear lately, and the Sixers are playing really good basketball right now. But I do feel like, and to a degree, I'll admit this, up until this winning streak, I was kind of underestimating the Bulls. I mean, they were winning. They were in first place. They were in second place. I think at this point, they are a legit top-tier Eastern Conference team. I was actually looking this up today. Kevin Pelton, shout out ESPN, Kevin Pelton, had an article today about games lost, minutes lost, and advanced stat wins above replacement player lost because of COVID. And the Bulls right now are first in minutes lost because of COVID protocols. So they're in first place despite all that.
Because they got hit with everybody early.
Yeah. And
I remember
granted, I believe one of those games that got postponed, DeMar and Zach respectively, I don't remember which one, but DeMar missed 3 games because of COVID. Zach missed 2.
Yeah.
It could have been more had that game got postponed. But they've been like a bunch of teams and lost a ton of minutes and a ton of good players because of COVID, and yet they're still in first place. And we're still clearly Vegas, FanDuel, all the odds makers, they're still underestimating them.
Do you think they're missing a specific piece?
No, I like their team. I mean, I would love to see Patrick Williams at full strength, healthy. I think that's the type of player you need in the playoffs, is a versatile wing that can guard multiple positions and play hard and make winning plays. And if he's fully healthy, I don't know. I don't know what his timeline is right now, but their team is complete. They're deep. They have guards that can guard multiple positions in Lonzo and Alex Caruso. I mean, I like their team a lot. Tommy, I'm singing the Bulls' praises. All right,
I love it.
You're a Chicago Bulls fan.
I think the one difference between them, the one, because the Suns comp is really interesting. The one thing that the Suns have proven that the Bulls have not proven yet, doesn't mean they won't be able to, is that Suns bench is amazing.
Yeah,
and they're super deep, and that's I mean, they might be the deepest team in the league, and that's a thing that the Bulls are not there yet.
The other guy we should mention right now, because we're talking about the Suns bench, and I know he's started some games as well, is Cameron Johnson's having a great season. And he's one of those guys, because of his skill set and his size, look, he could go start on like 25 NBA teams right now and average 15 to 20 points, and he'd be getting a lot more buzz. But he's having an outstanding season. He's been playing great as of late. As always, you can download the FanDuel app. You can go to sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you sign up, please use promo code JJ. Obviously, you have to be 21 or over. Age and location restrictions do apply. But there's some really interesting stuff going on right now with finals odds, and I love that. And we're halfway through the season. We kind of know now who these teams are. And look, there's other teams that I think could end up being like last year's Hawks, and obviously we have Jalen Brunson on the show. Dallas could end up being one of those teams because Luka at full strength is as good as anybody in basketball. We should get to our conversation with my former teammate and dear friend, Josh Hart.